9. Time and the idea. In a very interesting article, Walter LaCour observes, a recent visitor to a Scandinavian university, after a heated debate with a group of students who had complained bitterly about the lack of freedom in their own country and in the West in general, asked which country in the world they most admired. The answer was Albania. None of the students was familiar with conditions in Albania. None had been there or had the faintest wish to go, but Albania was nevertheless the name of their utopia. LaCour goes on to cite recent examples of the same fantasies, the Soviet Union as the earthly paradise for many, from World War I on, and Red China, North Korea, and Cuba in more recent years. All are held in turn to be the place where not only a new social order, but a new species of mankind was said to have been brought forth, free of selfishness and depravity, free of crime and even neurosis, perfect in every respect, lacking only the gift of immortality. Such fantasies have been held with passion and intensity, and especially by intellectuals. The more deeply imbued a man is with the intellectual currents of the Western world, the more prone he is to such illusions. Students are thus in particular subject to these fantasies. The reason lies deep in the history of the West. Its origin is in the Greek dualism of form and matter. Form, the world of ideas or patterns, gives shape to and determines the nature of the world of matter. Plato's Republic is an attempt to set forth the idea, which must be imposed upon the otherwise meaningless world of matter. Plato's Republic and Plato's philosophy spawned the 30 tyrants of Greece. Throughout history, the influence of this Platonic idea has been a pernicious one, as men have sought to impose the straitjacket of the idea onto man and history. These failures, however, are irrelevant to intellectual history. It is the idea which counts. The idea is a reality, so that wherever a group of intellectual revolutionary men seek to impose the idea on history, there the idea exists. In Hegel, of course, this faith came into its own with the principle, the rational is the real. If it is the Soviet Union or Albania which is seen as the rational order, then it is the real order. Albania qualifies better than the Soviet Union because Albania has so, quote, primitive, end quote, a background that it provides an ideal setting for the imposition of the idea upon the matter of history. Where is time in all of this? Newton had viewed time in terms of an older worldview as something independent from the world of matter. For Newton, time was like God, an independent entity and absolute. The trend of philosophy, however, was hostile to anything alien to the autonomy of man's mind, and an autonomous time was simply a substitute for an autonomous and sovereign God. Instead, modern man found a more congenial concept in the space-time idea. There is a four-dimensional continuum, of which 3 are spatial, length, width, and height, and 1 is temporal. Space and time are a unity. By unifying space and time, the world of matter now includes both and leaves man's idea as the principle of freedom, which acts on space-time and brings forth its world. In terms of this, the Genesis account of modern man would read, "And the space-time continuum was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the idea of man moved upon the face of the waters." This is, of course, at the heart of Marxism. Marx opposed any and all concessions to such external factors as supply and demand, Gresham's law, the price mechanism, and the like. Only the idea could be regarded as necessary. He declared, "Communism differs from all previous movements in that it overturns the basis of all earlier relations of production and intercourse, and, for the first time, consciously treats all natural premises as the creatures of men, strips them of their natural character, and subjugates them to the power of individuals united." How can we reconcile this with Marx's known hostility to the supremacy of thought, and, especially, Hegelianism? Marx, after stated in his preface to the German Ideology that it was his purpose to overthrow philosophy, to liberate men from ideas. Hitherto, men have constantly made up for themselves false conceptions about themselves, about what they are and what they ought to be. They have arranged their relationships according to their ideas of God, of normal man, etc. The phantoms of their brains have gained mastery over them. They, the creators, have bowed down before their creatures. Let us liberate them from the chimeras, the ideas, dogmas, imaginary beings under the yoke of which they are pining away. Let us revolt against the rule of thoughts. The first volume of this present publication has the aim to discredit the philosophic struggle with the shadows of reality. Marx is not eliminating the idea, only other men's ideas, which, for him, are discarnate, whereas for him the idea is as real as it ever was for Hegel. The difference, however, is that Hegel's idea is spirit or mind. Marx's idea is the dialectical process, the conflict of idea and matter as they struggle for resolution within history. Marx materializes his idea, but it is no less an idea, a pattern, derived from autonomous man and forced onto space and time. The goal is to arrest space and time, to create the ideal and unchanging perfect order. The goal is to overcome poverty, disease, aging and death, and to make man's idea fully incarnate. The space-time continuum then becomes the idea. The flesh is made into the Word, and man reigns over time and space. Ostensibly, time will be, quote, arrested, end quote, but such a goal rests on an illusion. Assuming for a moment what can never be, that is, man's realization of his goal of the perfect and unchanging order, will it not rather be man who is arrested? What man assumes to be the flow of time is, more accurately, his own maturation, development, growth, regress, and history. When man thus wages war on time, he usually wages war on himself. In this life at the least, unchanging men are dead men, and timeless man is an impossibility.